1 million seized ballots are currently locked in a sheriff's evidence room, frozen as a suspended asset of the California electorate.
Tonight we've learned Riverside County Sheriff and GOP candidate for governor Chad Bianco seized hundreds of boxes of additional ballots this week. And that's on top of the 600,000 he obtained last month as part of his controversial investigation into the last statewide election. CBS LA political reporter Tom Waite is here. And Tom, the state attorney general was in court today trying to stop Bianco.
Yeah, he was in Riverside County Court, and now we have even more breaking news in this case, and let's get to it right now. So tonight, the legal battle between State Attorney General and Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco is escalating. We just learned a few moments ago that Bonta is asking for an emergency hearing from the state Supreme Court to block Bianco's attempted recount of the Prop 50 special election. Bianco says he's disgusted by Bonta's actions. Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco continues to ramp up his controversial investigation into last fall's Prop 50 special election. We learned Friday Bianco ordered the seizure of an additional 426 boxes of ballots from the Riverside County Registrar of Voters. That's in addition to more than 600,000 ballots seized last month through a warrant.
The undermining of the Registrar of Voters for political gain.
Local community activists say Bianco is attacking democracy.
This is a campaign stunt. This is political theater.
Sheriff Bianco, who is running as a Republican candidate for governor, is also under fire from State Attorney General Rob Bonta. On Friday, Bonta asked a Riverside County judge to order Bianco to stop his investigation, calling the ballot seizure illegal. Bianco says he seized the ballots to conduct his own recount after a citizens group claimed there were 45,000 questionable votes in Riverside County in the Prop 50 special election.
We are witnessing a systemic infrastructure collapse, where the tally of a statewide election has reached a 45,000 vote material variance that the state's internal controls cannot explain. While the Attorney General moves to liquidate the investigation, the forensic trail reveals a shadow ledger on Skid Row where the right to vote is being traded for a $3 bribe. This is the ballot box insolvency audit. And for Camillo's house, we are documenting the moment where the integrity of the count has officially entered receivership. I am Camillo Motado, and this is Camillo's house. As a certified public accountant focused on forensic verification, I approach every political conflict like an auditor looking for a significant deficiency in a firm's reporting standards. In a standard financial audit, if you find a discrepancy of 45,000 units in your primary inventory, you don't just verify the signatures. You perform a total systemic reconciliation to identify where the leakage occurred. Today, we are auditing the Riverside County ballot seizure, a scenario where the internal controls of the California election system have been overridden by a county sheriff who is also a GOP candidate for governor. We are analyzing the material conflict between a regulatory body, the Secretary of State, and a law enforcement auditor, Sheriff Chad Bianco, to see if the democratic ledger of California is fundamentally impaired. The operational trigger for this crisis was a citizens audit that identified a material inconsistency in the Prop 50 special election. According to the data logs, 611,000 ballots were cast, but 657,000 votes were certified. From an investigative standpoint, this 45,000 vote variance is a red flag that would trigger a mandatory forensic review in any private corporation. Sheriff Chad Bianco didn't just ask for the paperwork. He performed a hostile asset recovery, utilizing search warrants to seize over 600,000 ballots and an additional 426 boxes of materials. In accounting terms, this is a forensic inventory seizure. Bianco is treating the ballots as evidence of a crime rather than secured sovereign assets, a move that has sent the management in Sacramento into a state of total reputational panic. The Registrar of Voters, Art Tinoco, has attempted to provide a statement of correction, arguing that the citizens group is using raw data that hasn't undergone signature verification. In his view, the 45,000 vote gap is filled with spoiled ballots and in signed envelopes. But as a CPA, I ask, where is the reconciliation statement? If 45,000 ballots are spoiled, there should be a disposal log that matches the number. You cannot balance the books on a statewide election by simply saying the numbers don't add up because of raw data. The lack of a transparent audit trail is what allowed the sheriff as auditor to step in and seize the ledger. This is a management failure in the chain of custody for voter information. Now, the legal ledger has hit a stop-loss order. California Attorney General Rob Bonta and the UCLA Voting Rights Project have filed for an emergency stay with the California Supreme Court to delist Bianco's investigation. They argue that the ballot seizure is illegal and a campaign stunt designed to boost Bianco's governor portfolio. From a risk management perspective, having the same person who is auditing the election also running for the top executive post creates an appearance of impropriety that is materially inconsistent with professional standards. Bonta is attempting to liquidate the investigation before it can impair the public trust, while Bianco claims the only question is why anyone would not want an investigation to occur. This is a regulatory standoff where the integrity of the infrastructure is being sacrificed for political liquidity. While the top-tier management in Sacramento is fighting over the ballot boxes in Riverside, a secondary audit by James O'Keefe has revealed a shadow ledger of voter registration on the streets of Los Angeles. Undercover footage from Skid Row has certified what appears to be a systemic fraud operation targeting the homeless asset class. From a forensic perspective, we are looking at a management override of ethics. O'Keefe's team captured 28 separate transactional events where non-governmental employees encouraged the homeless to use fake addresses to sign petitions and register to vote. These aren't just discrepancies. They are material breaches of federal election law. The cost of a vote in California has been priced at a remarkably low valuation. On hidden camera, petitioners admitted they are paid between $7 and $10 per signature. Even more disturbing is the bribe for registration, where homeless individuals were allegedly offered $3 just to sign the paper so the auditor-solicitor could get paid too. In any incentive-based management system, if you pay for the number of leads rather than the quality of the data, you are subsidizing fraud. This is a systemic risk that has contaminated the voter database. If this is happening 28 times in a single weekend on one block of Skid Row, then the extrapolated liability for the entire state of California reaches into the hundreds of thousands of units. The internal controls of the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority have reached a state of functional insolvency. O'Keefe's investigation caught a LASA employee coaching plausible deniability, telling people to go to Skidville and use ignorance as an excuse for violating the law. In auditing terms, this is a management-led fraud scheme where federal money distributed to organizations like the Weingard Center is being used to fund the distortion of the electorate. When the custodians of the needy become the solicitors of the fraud, the social equity of the entire state is severely impaired. It is a misallocation of federal assets that has been successfully audited by an undercover journalist because the official auditors were too busy redacting the past. The response ledger from the executive management has been a series of non-responsive disclosures. Governor Gavin Newsom has issued a statement saying anyone caught in this activity should be investigated to the fullest extent of the law. But as a CPA, I track the timing of the disclosure. Newsom is only acknowledging the liability now because it has become visible on the balance sheet. He knows that if he doesn't audit the fraud, his national political capital will suffer a systemic write-down. Meanwhile, the U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi has vowed to aggressively pursue anyone involved in violating federal election laws. This is a regulatory war between the state management and the Federal Oversight Committee. As we reconcile the data for April 2026, California is no longer a stable political asset. It is a high-risk environment of material misstatements and seized inventories. You have a sheriff candidate who has liquidated the authority of the registrar and an attorney general who is trying to freeze the evidence. You have Skid Row solicitations that prove the voter roll is insolvent and a governor who is hedging his bets by calling for full prosecution. The trust equity of the California voter is in a state of negative worth. My forensic verdict is that the California election infrastructure has suffered a systemic control failure. You cannot audit the truth into a system where the ballots are seized and the voters are bribed. The 45,000 vote variance in Riverside County is a material fact that proves the tallying process is functionally impaired. The Skid Row investigation is the proof of concept that the internal controls for voter registration have been permanently breached. Until the total inventory of ballots is reconciled by an independent third-party auditor, one without a governor's race on their balance sheet, the results of the 2026 election will remain uncertified in the eyes of the public. The March 20th announcement by Chad Bianco was a market shocker that has turned California into the ground zero of election integrity. Whether it is Fulton County, Maricopa County, or Riverside County, the audit trail of our democracy is getting more expensive and more volatile by the day. The management at the top is like a toddler with the recall of a goldfish. They forget the errors of the past and rant and rave when the auditors find the discrepancies. The one big beautiful bill of American democracy is currently overdrawn, and the citizens are the ones who will have to pay the interest on this management failure. I want to hear from you. Should a candidate for governor be allowed to audit his own electorate? Or is the Bianco seizure a material conflict of interest? Does a $3 bribe on Skid Row prove a systemic fraud? Or is it just petty noncompliance by rogue stakeholders? Let me know in the comments. Your perspective is the only audit that matters when the privacy of the ballot and the solvency of the system are sitting on the negotiation table. I am Camilo Motado, and this is Camilo's House. Subscribe to stay informed on the numbers, the laws, and the truth behind the headlines. Stay safe.